We are in such a great place with the Predator franchise. This is Steven Shinder Reviews in video form, and I'll be giving a spoiler-free review of Predator Badlands, and then give a warning before I get into the spoilers for the film. I've seen all the Predator films, but this was the first one I saw in the theater. I actually did a double feature on my birthday watching Begonia right before, which I highly recommend. It's one of my favorite films of the year. I don't want to give anything away. It's an absurdist comedy thriller type movie. I went in knowing almost nothing and loved it, so definitely go see it. But anyway, the Predator films have had quite the trajectory over the decades. Started off with an iconic 1987 action movie, then tried to change things up a bit with 1990's Predator 2, which at the very least gave us the indication that predators have been coming to Earth in various eras. Something we've seen explored more in recent years, in the films anyway. I'm sure there are probably some expanded universe stories that went into that quite a bit. But the box office performance wasn't as satisfying for Predator 2, so people wouldn't get more films until 2004's Alien vs. Predator, which was pretty and 2007's AVP Requiem, yeah, nobody saw that, or could see that, I should say. But then we got Predators in 2010, which finally allowed us to see humans and predators on an alien world. But instead of a direct sequel, the film series was dormant again until we got 2018's The Predator, which, yeah, was pretty bad. It was a mess. I kind of can't believe that it was only 4 years after that film that we got the next one, and which was Prey, and it's clear that Dan Trachtenberg gets it. Prey, which is set in 1719, follows a Native American woman protagonist. This was a universally loved film, put straight to streaming, and got lots of praise. People were clamoring for more eras, which we got in the excellently animated Predator Killer of Killers earlier this year. This one was also released on streaming. We have come so far. I make the Star Wars comparison. We started with an iconic film that had limitations because it was live action and because of constraints of time, technology, and whatnot. But Killer of Killers is like the Clone Wars to me. You can do anything and go anywhere. And with Predator Badlands, I kind of see a Star Warsification of the Predator story, which some might throw around as a negative, but I see it as a good thing here. Though I should define what I mean by Star Warsification so that there are no misunderstandings. We have Dek, who is a Yautja, that's the name of the predator species. You know, he's a tough guy, meets a synth named Thea, so you could kind of compare that to the droids in Star Wars, and they also encounter a cute creature along the way, so I cannot help but think of The Mandalorian or other similar Star Wars stories where you have a comic relief droid and a cute creature or a cute alien character. Those types of stories can run the gamut of quality depending on the execution. And here, I think it's done pretty well, actually. So, again, we follow Dek. He is young in his clan. He has to prove himself. And I've seen people online express distaste for this new predator we're following, saying he's smaller and weaker in comparison to others we've seen in the franchise. But that's kind of the point in the narrative. It's an underdog story. It's a coming-of-age story. He actually learns. Some people prefer the Predator being all big and villainous and not necessarily someone you might root for. I get that this isn't the Predator archetype that we're so used to, but that's what makes this more fascinating to me. Trying to make a villain more heroic can have mixed results because it can feel out of character. If one were to turn some slasher villain like Freddy Krueger or Michael Myers into a more heroic or sympathetic character, that's weird and off-putting. But the difference here is that there's not just one predator throughout the franchise. They're all different characters of the same species. We've seen a bunch throughout the franchise, and some of them even get bested by us insignificant humans. Surely there should be room for a Yautja who is different and might go against the grain in some respects, right? It's just a really weird criticism to see, in my opinion. People accuse this film of being too woke or DEI, and it's like, what do you want? Just boring action? Just no characters to care about or stories that make you think? Just not want diversity anywhere? Why are you so threatened? Just seems silly to me. People are also hung up on the PG-13 rating, but it still feels like a pretty violent film. It just isn't R because the violence isn't against humans. It's a Predator film through and through, you goofballs. For a bit of the film, I did wonder whether Thea's presence was necessary, and I am glad to say the film sold me on her. It's a gradual process. We were only hearing the Yautja language with subtitles, which I dug. Whether it be the modern Planet of the Apes films or Godzilla Minus One, I appreciate translation via subtitles. I wouldn't have minded the whole movie being like that. So when Thea comes into the picture, we hear about her universal translator, which becomes how we are able to understand her words as the audience, though thankfully, Dex's dialogue is still in his own language. It didn't feel clunky the way Avatar: The Way of Water or something like that handled the switch to hearing the dialogue in English. At first, I thought Thea would simply be comic relief, giving the witty remarks, as well as a tell, don't show type of character. A lot of exposition, and there is some exposition, there definitely is. But over the course of the film, as you learn more about her connection to other synths and the company, you realize how much she adds to the story. You can compare the individual family dynamics. I enjoy the way these characters interact with each other. Some of those people online seem to take offense at her inclusion just because it's a woman. And again, I ask those people, why are you like this? Anyway, I really like this setting. This world that they're on has interesting fauna and flora that can be very dangerous. I feel like they got really creative with these elements. I also find it fascinating how this film incorporates aspects of the Alien franchise without including the alien, the xenomorph itself. I really dig that. These can all be on the same playground. It's just that some toys are in one corner and the other is a different part of the playground. For a good chunk of the 2010s, it felt like Fox was keeping Alien, Predator, and AVP in their own separate universes, especially when Prometheus and Alien Covenant were being made and released. But by this point, it really feels like they're back to being one world. We don't always have to see these titans go up against each other, though I'm sure something like that could happen on the horizon, hopefully in a better fashion. I've heard that the AVP comics and perhaps video games are better than the films based on the idea. Those two creatures going at it in space or on some other world instead of Earth. Maybe they eventually went to Earth, I don't know, but the AVP movies present this idea that xenomorphs have been on Earth for a very long time, long before the original Alien film, which doesn't feel right to me. The recent show Alien Earth has a similar dilemma in my eyes, albeit set 2 years before the original Alien, for some reason. I can't quite decide if having the audacity of setting it so close to Alien is worse. A xenomorph on Earth feels like it should, at least to me, be an end-of-the-world level threat, so despite interesting ideas, Alien Earth just feels kind of weird to me. But hey, it just got renewed for another season, so what do I know? Badlands is actually set the furthest in the future of the Alien and Predator timeline, according to the director, even past Alien Resurrection. The intention was to set it far from everything else to not step on the toes of any other bits of storytelling in the timeline. I appreciate this quite a bit, and while I did enjoy Alien Romulus somewhat, it did have a bit too much fan service and nostalgia bait. You can check out my review of that from last year. Unless I've forgotten stuff, I didn't feel that so much with Predator Badlands. It was just chugging along, doing its own thing, being itself, which is very appropriate for this movie. I've definitely been preferring the direction of the Predator projects as of late. Again, in terms of storytelling, the Predator films are in such a great place right now. I got really invested in the character and story elements here. It's so good. It might now be my favorite Predator live-action film, at least. It's kind of neck and neck with the new animated film Killer of Killers. I just love the way these films open up the Predator mythology some more, while presenting more characters to care about. So my score for Predator Badlands would be a 9 out of 10. Both of this year's Predator films are in my top 5 2025 films right now, the titles ahead of them being 28 Years Later, Begonia, and Weapons right at the top. I guess we'll see if Wicked for Good shakes up that top 5 a bit, but yeah, superhero movies are not in my top 5 here, even though they're somewhat close. Before I go into the spoilers for Badlands, I also want to address the potential future of the franchise. While Threads could certainly be continued from here and even the other recent films, there has also been some reporting that Arnold Schwarzenegger has met with Trachtenberg about playing Dutch again in another Predator film. To be honest, and this might put me in the minority amongst other longtime Predator fans, I've never really felt the desire for Dutch to return. I generally am not super into the idea of forced returns of familiar characters. That being said, the animated film Killer of Killers apparently hinted at his return, and I kind of missed it. I remember I was watching it really late at night. So with that in mind, since the seeds are planted, they kind of have to do something with him. Will there be de-aging? Well, I'm not so into that idea, but I guess we'll have to see how the character is handled. Alright, now I'm going into the spoilers. I'm serious. If you haven't seen the film, go see it, it's worth it. Okay, so we get the reveal that this beast Deck has been after, this Kalisk, is the mother of the cute little creature Bud, who's traveled a bit with Deck and Thea. I feel like I've seen this kind of twist multiple times, so it felt a little been there done that to me. But I was still super invested when their mission became to save the mother. I just wish she didn't die immediately after being saved. With her regenerative properties, I really thought they were going to reveal that after the ice or whatever was used to freeze her melts, her matter gets back together and she becomes one again. And I thought it would be her in the end when we see a big Kalisk show up to help Deck confront his father. But it turns out some time has passed and Bud has grown. So, yeah, pretty bummed about the mom being gone. But I do love this found family. It did remind me a bit of Ice Age, to be honest. I guess you can blame Alien Earth for putting that in the forefront of my mind. Bud came from a caring family, whereas Deck and Thea ended up having to cut off their toxic relatives. And again, pour one out for Deck's brother Quay, who stood up for him at the beginning. He was a real one. The ending teases that the new fam has to confront Deck's mother, which is perfect timing because after the dad died, I did wonder if there is a mom. I'm curious to see whether this will be its own story or whether it'll somehow intersect with the Dutch story or whatever may follow Killer of Killers. Honestly, I don't really need much crossover. You can have some great standalone stories in this universe, and we know it's the same universe simply by the presence of any Yautja. There are many eras to play with, though I'm sure we'll have another AVP along the way since Trachtenberg seems open to it. Sure, go ahead and check off that box, as long as it doesn't suck. The bar is low, and I trust this new era of these films, so maybe it'll surprise me. Again, very thankful for how great the Predator films are going. Really hope the box office for this one is great. So fingers crossed. But hey, as they make more, if they do make more, there can be something for everyone. And again, we do not need to do nostalgia bait. Man, I'm really glad that when we saw that mech suit, we didn't get that line that they felt they had to shove an alien Romulus. So, yeah, there's that. Anyway, thanks for checking out this review. This is Steven Shinder Reviews in video form, and I'll see you all soon.